You know what vexes me? How a lot of people consider Foreman to be a boring character. Even the writers.
Do you think I'm boring?
Yes.
This usually leads to him being ranked near the bottom of the team members. But you know what I think? I think Foreman might be my favorite character. Sometimes even more than House. If we're only talking about seasons 1 to 3. In those early seasons, Foreman had a lot to do and had a clear conflict. That being his push and pull between wanting to be as good of a doctor as House, but not wanting to be like him as a person. That arc hits its crescendo into back-to-back episodes in season 3, and they're some of the best episodes of House. But once we get into season 4, Foreman loses all his agency, making one of the best characters in House boring. But let's back up. First of all, what do we know about Foreman?
Foreman's black.
What? How long have you been sitting on this information?
We also know that he's the newest member of the team when he gets introduced in the pilot of House. We're told that Foreman was hired because he broke into someone's house when he was 16. Dr. House wanted someone with street smarts and someone that can break rules. Because of Foreman's less than stellar past, he's willing to do anything to get ahead. Like in the season 2 episode Sleeping Dogs Lie, where Cameron had written an article about a previous case they had. Foreman stole that article and submitted it himself, which damaged his relationship with Cameron. This is in line with one of the other core traits of Foreman, that being he's a bit of a loner. He doesn't really have much going on outside of the job, much like our main character House. And that isn't by accident. Foreman shares a lot of traits with House. They're both introverted and have difficulty forming close relationships. The closest thing Foreman has to friends is Chase and Cameron, and early on, he doesn't want to be their friends. That's because he's laser focused on his job. With that comes being stubborn and having a massive ego. Once Foreman is convinced he's right about an idea, he'll fight tooth and nail for it. Much like our lead character, and House respects him for it. He wants Foreman to challenge his conclusions. There is a mutual respect between them at a professional level. Also, neither of them are the biggest fans of their patients.
What did you give him? Are you treating him for something?
Sedative.
Did he need a sedative?
I did.
But if all those similarities aren't enough for you, the show compares them multiple times.
If you're anything like me, and by the way you are.
While he respects House as a doctor, he disagrees with his methods, and that's where they differ. Foreman wants to believe in the best of humanity. He has idealistic principles, or at least he wants to have those principles, and working with House erodes those beliefs. Going through the seasons, Foreman becomes more jaded and more like House.
We're like the frogs who've been in the pot for a while. We're used to the heat.
In the first episode, he's apprehensive of breaking into a patient's home. But as the series progresses, he feels like he's losing his humanity, and when he gets compared to House, that hurts. That's the core conflict of his character. He wants to be as good as House without being like him as a person. That's why I like him so much. Being a mirror to one of the greatest television characters makes him incredibly interesting. But that can only resolve in one of two ways. He quits the job, or he becomes the new head of diagnostics. This conflict comes to its climax in the 20th episode of season 3, House Training. This episode balances two major plots as it relates to Foreman. There's the case and his family. The patient Loop has an episode of abulia, the inability to make a decision. Foreman thinks the cause is drugs, which he later gets supporting evidence for. The important thing to note for the dynamic between Foreman and Loop is that Foreman puts as much distance as he can between the two of them. He acts like he's way better than her. He's made good life decisions, she's made bad ones. At the same time, Foreman's dad visits him at the hospital to let him know they came to see him for his mom's 60th birthday. Two crucial parts of information are learned here. One, that Foreman hasn't been home since med school, which is 8 years ago. And two, Foreman's mother has Alzheimer's. His dad wants him to talk to her while she still remembers who he is. Foreman reluctantly agrees and meets his mother. Everything seems normal. She seems lucid and recognizes her son. She even brought a photo of him so he could remember where he came from. As the case develops, Foreman sees that Loop's eyes have a yellow tinge, leading him to believe that it's cancer.
It's gotta be cancer. Lymphomatoid granulomatosis. She needs total body radiation.
We can't do anything until we can confirm.
Running those immunochemistries could take a week. She'll be dead by the time...
That doesn't make radiation any safer.
Okay. Suppose Chase and Cameron are right. Suppose it's an autoimmune disease. What's the biggest danger of total body radiation? It suppresses the immune system, which is what we're trying to do with the steroids anyway.
I don't usually put out on my first date, but I gotta say, that is a rad move.
Doing this was a massive mistake. As it turns out, it was an infection. They killed the only thing that was fighting whatever disease she had. She's going to die in the next 24 hours. This happens 20 minutes into the episode, which is atypical for House. There is nothing more the team can do. She can't be saved. Foreman, who is responsible, decides to be the one to tell her and take her through the process of dying. She has no friends, and her only family, her grandparents, with whom she's distant, won't make it in time. Through this process, Foreman admits to her that the only reason that he put distance between them is because there isn't any. Foreman made bad decisions, but got a second chance. He laments that the reason that he tries to be the smartest person in the room is that if everyone figures out that he isn't, they'll send him back to where he's from. He's still haunted by his origin, and he'll never mentally escape. When he left to go to college, he got a hug from his mom, and that's the last time he felt at home. They still haven't figured out what was killing her, and House needs to know. But Foreman doesn't care. He forbids House from putting her through any more tests until she dies. Foreman feels immense guilt from his mistake, but House tells him that that's his job. He isn't like other doctors. They save people that no one else can save. Sometimes that will lead to people dying, but it's a numbers game.
So you're giving me numbers? Because they don't lie. I can't forgive you, Foreman. Because there's nothing to forgive.
This leads to Foreman returning to his mom, seeking absolution or some kind of comfort. He tells her that he hurt someone and it's his fault. His mom forgives him.
You'd never hurt anybody on purpose.
Do you know who I am, Mom?
Of course. Our little boy's name is Eric.
God, what a great scene. Because of this, Foreman is on tilt in the following episode. Titled Family, it focuses on two brothers. Nick, who has leukemia, and his older brother Matty, who is going to give him his bone marrow, until Matty sneezes, meaning he can't transfer until he's no longer sick. Nick has 5 days, or it's too late. House and his team are tasked with finding out what's wrong with him. During their differential diagnoses on Matty, Foreman plays it safe. He doesn't want to make the same mistakes he made last episode. Foreman is on tilt, not only because he killed a patient, but because...
I have to, House.
Or as House says...
I think he's got the yips. Steve Blass, Scott Norwood, David Duvall, all got the yips. Great athletes, lost their confidence and immediately started sucking.
As the case progresses, Matty gets sicker. With his life now on the line, House wants to do a risky surgery to try and save both kids. But Foreman undercuts House. He goes to the parents and tells them about the other donors from the bone marrow registry. It won't be as good of a match as Matty's, with the possibility of complications, but Nick will at least have a chance to live. The parents agree to this, but unfortunately Nick's body rejects the new marrow, and Matty's disease has progressed to a point where he's on the verge of death. There is a way to save Matty, but it requires Nick to risk his own life. House convinces Nick because he's dying anyway. That's when Foreman figures out what's wrong. It's histoplasmosis, which means Matty can be saved, but Nick will still die regardless. That's until Foreman makes a decision.
Your brother was willing to risk his life to save you. Are you willing to do that for him? I can't sedate you. Too sick.
Foreman's back in action, but he's not okay with how he had to act.
I hate that in order to be like you as a doctor, I have to be like you as a human being.
And this is where Foreman becomes boring. But you know what isn't boring? My 5-part comedy crime miniseries called Midlands Mayhem. You can watch it right now for free on midlandsmayhem.com. I love these 2 episodes. And the reason for that is because of Foreman's character arc reaching a breaking point. But now that we've opened that box, there's no more conflict, and anything further would be retreading old ground. Foreman leaves the team, and in the next season, he's running his own diagnostics team at New York Mercy. Except he gets fired near instantly because he acts like House.
It won't happen again.
Yes, it will. Because you confuse saving her life with doing the right thing.
Because of that, no other hospital will touch him, and the only job he can get is at Princeton Plainsboro.
You're House Light now. The only administrator that will touch you is the one who hired House Classic.
This is where Cuddy appoints him as the supervisor of House's new team, and he remains in that position while also effectively being a regular member of House's team until season 8, where he becomes the Dean of Medicine. I can excuse that change. The creators of House were thrown a curveball with Lisa Edelstein not returning for the 8th season, and they had to make do with what they had. But by that point, he didn't have much to do as a character. But what do you do with Foreman after his arc is complete in season 3? He doesn't have anywhere to go. Foreman can't replace House as the lead of the show, but you don't want to remove a character the audience has gotten so attached to. If we were doing what was best for his character, he would have stayed in New York Mercy, and maybe even given him his own spin-off running his own diagnostics team. But would I have wanted him to leave the show? I mean, no. I'm incredibly attached to him because he was so interesting in those first 3 seasons. So what could they have done differently? I think that Foreman needed to develop more as a character rather than be stuck in the stasis that he was. Like how Chase's character developed through the later seasons of House. He began to stand up for himself, and became numb to House's methods as he returned to the team, even with Chase getting stabbed in the 8th season, which significantly altered his worldview. Something similar should have happened to Foreman, although maybe that would have been too similar to his plot in the 2-parter from season 2, Euphoria. That's not to say Foreman didn't have attempts to reinvigorate his character. They put him in a romantic relationship with 13, and had him run clinical trials on a new Huntington's drug, which is the disease that 13 had. After some back and forth, he gets 13 to commit to the trials, but Foreman would find out that she's on the placebo, leading him to violate the ethics of the study by switching her to the real drug. While this arc is interesting, it serves 13's character much more than it serves Foreman's. He still has some great moments throughout the rest of the series.
Who the hell did I leave in charge?
Foreman.
There's a reason for that. Next time, listen to him.
He also gets to have more chemistry with the rest of the cast. He becomes friends with Cameron and Chase after trying to keep a distance from them in the earlier seasons. And he ends up living with Taub, which I think is a lot of fun. But he never reaches those peaks that he did in the first 3 seasons. After he lost his core conflict of wanting to be as good as House, but not wanting to be like him as a person, he just didn't have anything left to do. It's a real shame, because of all of his arguments and conflicts in those earlier seasons were so compelling. It's just unfortunate he couldn't reach that peak again.
I too am in this episode.